So, a very good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome to the Lyceum evening, coming to you from the Paul Christian Spiritualist Church down on the south coast of the UK. A very warm welcome to our guest tonight, Mr. Chris Jacobs. Chris, very good evening to you, sir.
And to you, Laurie. Thank you for having me.
A pleasure, and thank you for donating your time and your knowledge. We want your knowledge, Chris. Tell us everything.
Oh, better have a clear out in here then.
Oh, hold on. For some reason, it doesn't seem to be live on Facebook. Why is that? Bear with me, Chris. Sorry, I've got a message up saying we're not live on Facebook. Right, so why is that? So, let's go back to StreamYard. I see, it's on my page. But we are live on the church page and the YouTube channel. So apologies, everybody who's trying to watch on my page, because I'm not there. There is something now with StreamYard and personal pages, and I don't know what it is. We can do to groups. But your own personal profile, it just seems to not be able to stream. But anyway, so good job I didn't swear then.
Isn't it just?
Very, very. So, Chris, if you could just tell us a wee bit about yourself, that would be wonderful. Thank you, sir.
Well, obviously I'm Chris. People ask how I came into this. I didn't necessarily come into it as much as it was always there and it was always present. So as a young child, I didn't have the very best of childhoods, and spirit, although I didn't know them as spirit at that time, were there present for me. You know, it was just all God and, you know, whoever they were. And they would talk to me, they would tell me things, they would tell me what was going to come along, what was going to happen. And they were just there. They were just, you know, constant companion through all the childhood. And then when I left home at the age of 15, they then led me to a spiritualist church, which was in Blackpool at the time. And I was just turning 16. And I remember it clearly. I'd fallen asleep on the top of a double-decker bus. And the next thing I'd heard was, time to get off, time to get off. So in half awake, half sleep state, ran down the stairs, got off the bus, and it was actually 2 stops too early. And when I looked in front of me, it said Blackpool Spiritualist Church. Although I knew the road that it was on, I never knew the church, and I never knew what a spiritualist church was. It'd never been mentioned in my household, you know, and the family at all. So it was, I just didn't know about it at all. And this was a Wednesday afternoon, it was about 2:15. And this voice again said, and I heard the voice very, very clearly, said, you need to go in. Well, I looked, the stairs were at the front of me, and I just looked up and I could quite clearly see that it was locked and shut. And I'm not the person just to walk into anywhere. I was so painfully shy. But I said, it's locked and shut. And they said, not those stairs, the ones to the left, go down them. So I just followed it, and I went down these stairs, and I opened this door, and you were straight into where everybody was sitting, all there, all eyes turned round and looked at me. It already started, the service was well undergo. And the medium then said, I'll remember her first name, Billy, lovely lady. And she just went, young man, I've been expecting you. Will you sit down at the back? And after the service, you and I will have a cup of tea and a little chat. And so I did exactly what I was told. And sure enough, we took me into the medium's room afterwards. We sat down and had a cup of tea. And she told me exactly what I was and what had been happening to me and what was kind of expected of me and what I would be doing in the future. And that was my first introduction into the spiritualist movement. And so I went on the Friday to an open circle, and that's where I met my then to be circle leader, who I gave a message to. She said it was very good. She came up to me and said, I'm going to start a circle for you. And I ended up sitting with her for, it's said 20 odd years, nearly 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a brief introduction. So it's something that I've always been.
Beautiful introduction. And I love what you said there about when you walked in, the medium went, we're expecting you. Because we do a lot of talk about the pioneers, and quite rightly so, in the movement. But remembering they were of a generation and of a society at that time, which is not today's world.
No.
But I did sit with my team in spirit, and I just said, why do we not see this level of mediumship anymore? Your story there just encapsulated it. Hunter Selkirk, in his book, the first time he ever walked into a spiritualist church, the medium went, oh, good, you're here. Dot's here and Jenny. I'm not quite sure about the names, but his wife and daughter in spirit, and they want to talk with you. You know, the guy just walked in off the road, walked through the door. I mean, talk about baptism of fire. If you did that to people nowadays, probably run out screaming is another reason we don't see it. But when I asked my team this, and I said, why do we not see this anymore? And they said, we haven't changed. And I just thought, oh, you lot, you are just so...
Do you know, can I say, I think it could be a twofold answer, this really, because I do feel that the acceptance now of spiritualism or spirit world is far more accepted now than it was possibly back then. So they did need this other level, as it were.
Yeah.
You know, where we're a little more in tune with it today than possibly we were then. But I'm sure, Laurie, it still goes on somewhere, but it has to be the right medium for the right person in the right circumstance at the right time.
Very much.
And so all these things confluate, come together in that one moment. And in my case, it was because even though I was only 16 at the time,
it's only about 10 years ago.
Yep, 9.5. It was I needed that. Anything else and I would have gone out the door.
That is so true. That is so true. I have various threads of thoughts in my head. It must look like the end of a curtain after a cat's been playing with it sometimes. But one of those threads is everything spirit does serves a purpose.
Yes, it does.
Everything. And those purposes, like you quite rightly say, that level of mediumship, that level of evidential trail convince you, oh, okay, there's something here. Had you just gone in, sat down, had a service, maybe not had a message, you might have just walked out the door and never come back. The spirit world know this. Yes. They know us better than we know ourselves.
Well, I was talking to my wife about this only this morning. We were more or less having this, but some things have just happened in my life just not so long ago. And, when you look at it, you think, oh, well, and I kind of just skated over it. But then on reflection, I said, my God, here's spirit in action. They've actually done what I wanted to get done, to materialize, to what happened. There it is. And me, supposedly a man of spirit, I hadn't even recognized it properly or acknowledged it. So, sometimes even as mediums as you and I are, we do need to take time just to sit back, reflect, and look at things and actually see where that influence came into bear.
Very much. Very much. In my current teaching style, I'm very much for the development of the medium themselves, not their mediumistic abilities, their personal development, because I do feel that maybe the focus has been for a little bit too long on the mechanics, on how you construct a message, how you do this, how you do that, and we're neglecting the person.
Exactly. The shopping list, as they used to call it.
Yeah. Or skirt. Good old.
Well, you know what? I was speaking because I reflect and talk, like as we all do with our spirit team, and they said something very interesting to me, and it actually shocked and shook me to my core. Because this is how my mediumship's been changing, and how I've been working now, because we were talking about this. I was talking to them about this very same thing, more or less, in some manner. And the answer that came back from him was, we don't need to learn how to speak to you. You need to learn how to speak to us.
Yeah.
And I thought about it, and I thought, my God, that is so true. And that's so right when I looked on the reflection. So I've started to try and incorporate that more now. It was not just about follow their lead, but why aren't we as mediums asking and talking to them in the appropriate way?
Yeah, engaging with the other one.
Engaging. They put the seed there, and we just walk straight by it.
Yeah. Again, amongst my teachings at the moment, this precursor that people come into the movement have, and it seems to be a bit imbued or embedded in them, is that, spirit will do it for me. And I keep saying, forget it. Seriously, forget it.
They do. It's it's I think we expect too much of spirit, as well as we expect too much of ourselves. But then in another thing, we don't do enough ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. My vision, views, and values of the other world is they are there to, not they are there, that is totally wrong. They will support me in all my endeavors, but I'm the one that's got to kickstart that. I'm the one that's got to put the groundwork into it. I'm the one that's got to build the intent and build the energy about it, and why you're doing it, and what is the purpose behind it. So everything comes, this whole world, everything that we experience is all about personal development.
It certainly is. I think what we really have to look at and truly, truly understand, the spirit world does not need to talk to us.
Yeah.
They don't need to. They don't need to come back and do what they do just to appease us. They don't need that.
Yeah.
They do this out of sheer love, and that sheer wanting to help us here left behind in this physical world.
Yeah.
So I think if we can truly grasp that and truly understand what it actually means, then I think we can start to get a little bit of a handle on it.
Yeah, very much so. I'm loving this, because this is mirroring a lot of my thoughts and postulations over the last few months. I think there's also a bit of an element out there that people have this view of the other world. I describe it, there's like a balloon on a bit of string at the end of your arm. That's the spirit world.
Yes.
Well, we're in the spirit world.
We are. It's a world within worlds.
Exactly. It's not separate to us by any means. We are part and parcel of that.
Yes.
And as I say, we do have this tendency at times to humanize the other world, with this view that they're just sat around doing nothing, waiting for us to summon them. Well, anybody wants to summon my mum, good luck. Tell me how that goes.
Exactly the same with my mum and my family. You know, I think mine would come with a swift boot up the backside.
I know. And as we were talking before we went live, and saying from the medium's perspective, you know, one day we are going to be there. We're going to be the message. But we're also going to meet up with all those people we've represented here on Earth, you know. And I want a happy crowd. I don't want an angry mob at the gates of heaven going, "You said this. I wouldn't. I'm not 6'4".
Yeah, it is. I think, you know, we have to really, as you know, even as working mediums, even with those of us with experience, I think we need to do regular reflection. Take
Yeah.
a look at it. Why are we doing this? What is it for? You know, and I think too, which is a very hot subject with me, because I see this quite a lot of places where I look around, is if we're saying that we are spirit here in the flesh, then why aren't we treating each other as that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why do everything goes into a battle? Yes, you never, you know, I can always remember this being told to me from a very, very young age when I first came in, you know, and it actually first came through spirit, but then I heard other people say it as well. When it, you know, when they just, I've forgotten what I was going to say now. It's totally gone so out my head because I was trying to remember back who was telling me. But it, you know, is that, you know, look at who we are, you know. Oh, this was it. You know, I don't have to like you. I just have to love you for the spirit that you are.
Nice. Yeah. I really like that.
Because we know as human beings, as human physical beings, we don't all get on together. We don't all gel together because it takes many types to run a world, as they say. But hence was I don't have to like you, but I just have to love and appreciate the spirit that you are.
Yeah.
Because in essence, it's that divine spark of God. So what are we doing to that spark?
I often say to people, you know, I can't make you love everybody, but what I can advise you is not to hate anyone.
Yes,
That's a choice.
it is a choice.
Some people, yeah, loving them is beyond. Loving them is not in our energy, not in our process at the moment. That's fine. You know what? That's fine. But then accelerating that into the, oh, I don't love you, so therefore I've got to hate you. That's not fine because that is then our choice. That is our action becoming manifest.
It is. I'm absolutely convinced that our experience here, what our experience is to learn the many different shades of love and to get to its true essence. I wonder how many of us actually do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh. Come on, that's a bit of a downer, Chris. Come on, cheer up. But no, it's very true. It is very true. That old saying, I love you enough to let you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Just do a quick few hellos. Lovely Camilla. Hello, darling. How are you? Leslie Moulton. Trish. Jennifer Phillips from north of the border. Oh, sorry, Jennifer. Please tell me never to do the Scottish accent again. Lovely Eva.
Oh, indeed. Hello, Eva.
Eden. Oh, you would have met up at Spirit Quest, yeah?
Yes, we did. Yes.
See, your secrets are coming out now, Eva. There we go. Lovely Lee. And everybody else that's saying hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Oh, and Marion doesn't live too far away from me.
Do you know what? I did a service down at a church last week. and there were 3 people from, I can't remember the name of the area now, a spiritualist church down that way. And I said, "Oh, do you know Marion Frisbee?" And they went, "Yeah, we know Marion." And I said, "Well, give them my love when you see her in person." And I can't for the life of me remember that story. I'm going to go back and edit this part out because I went off down a path and there was nothing at the end. But yeah, because we were talking just before we went live and say, where should we go? Where do we want to go tonight? Let's follow our passions. And the wonderful Chris brought up this subject about spiritualism today and potential for the future. Would that be a fair synopsis?
Well, yeah. What is the future of spiritualism? What's its current state and its potential? You know, and I think that's quite relevant for today because there is such a lot going on now. And I think we need to see a more defined path. Would you agree?
I think there is a huge amount of scope out there for, when I use the term mediums, I mean everybody who's sensitive to the other world, which is everybody because we're all part of that world. But I think there is much more definition coming in, much more focusing. We need to focus on our strengths. If you're a healer, be a good healer, be the best healer, be the amazing healer. If you're an inspired speaker, be the best. Talk about things, really rock that platform, really get people hanging on your word. And if evidential, come out with absolutely wonderful things because these are all elements of how the other world is showing their interaction with this world and the potential for their interaction with this world.
Yeah, you got to, if you want to stand out, then make it your own. Make it your own.
Yeah.
In what I mean by that is look at the way you work and how you move forward with it. What can you identify that is unique to you? It's a small mediumship in its way is a small pot, so there is always going to be a crossover. But within that, you can still find your own path, your own way forward.
Definitely.
Because as we learn and we go forward, we do adapt some things of other people, who we've learned and the forefathers. We've read a book and somehow some that influences a tiny part of us, But as you move forward with your mediumship, I think you need to try and identify what is your true strength.
Yeah.
What is that? And how do you move forward with that? And how can you future-proof it?
We used to have a thing in work. Where do you see yourself in 3, 5, 10 years from now? We don't do that to ourselves.
No, we don't.
And we should give a thought. I was having a conversation with a very close medium friend, and copious amounts of wine was involved as well. So,
with you, Laurie, I'm shocked.
I know. Anyway, moving on. But I said something, and when it came out of my mouth, I went, "Lawrence." But I said, "Where do you want to be in 10 years' time? Do you want to be sat on a bus going to do yet another divine service where the apathy of the congregation is only outweighed by the ignorance of the committee?" And it just came out. But this person went, "No, I don't want that." And I said, "So you need to change. You need to set your course. You need to direct where you're going with your mediumship. Otherwise, you will just end up drifting with it. Yeah. You will end up just responding to every phone call you have and continue. And that suits some people. I'm not knocking that. We need those the mediums who go out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out, serving the churches and the centres. That is part of our backbone. But similarly, we as working mediums, whichever field we're in, it doesn't hurt to sit down and have an honest word, not a I'm going to be a millionaire, I'm going to be on telly, and I'm going to be famous. Well, the only way that's going to happen is if I go on a killing spree, I'm afraid.
I better lock my door next time about yours.
Well, you lock your door and I'll lock the wine away. But yeah, just being honest with ourselves and where do we want to go with it? What are we doing at the moment? Yeah. Because we tend to fall in the niches, don't we? We tend to just fall into a system of work and not really think about it. But I think it does not hurt to sit there and go, do I want to be doing this in 5 years' time? And if the answer is yes, happy days, great. Nobody is knocking you. But if you think, you know what, I want a bit more out of this, I want to be able to maybe do some teaching or coaching or mentoring.
Yeah, definitely. I think as mediums, we're very much stuck in the past. We always look to the past. You know, we look, I mean, I'm not knocking the pioneers because I actually knew some of them at I class as pioneers, you know, but where are the pioneers of tomorrow?
Exactly.
Why aren't we looking at those? Why aren't we looking at that? Where is the pioneer for tomorrow?
Yeah.
You know, how are we as a working medium or tutor or whatever, how are we going to inspire those that are going to come after us?
Really good point.
You know, how are we going to take the movement, if you want to call it that way, into the next step and the next field so that we come away from dear old Granny and Auntie May and all of those, you know, with their flowered apron and all of that. Where are the people that worked on computers? Where are the engineers? You know, where are the people that created these massive buildings? You know, why aren't we bringing them through? Why aren't we bringing the people who worked in computing or engineering or telecom and all these things? Where are they? Why aren't we moving with that time? Indeed. Why aren't we moving with today's technology?
And one of the fallouts from 2020 with the ability, and now this is just, you know, accepted as the norm, that we will have these virtual meetings, whether it be to discuss things or for demonstration. So we are now working and cohabiting in a way with people from other countries. So where is the assimilation between these countries?
Yeah, I mean, I do it quite a lot, so I'm now getting quite used to that. You know, by the way, when we started Zoom, and you talk of 2020, after when I started going back out to the church, it took a lot to get used to me putting my trousers back on instead of just my loungers, instead of just the shirt, tie, and the jacket.
Ooh, I don't. I have a very visual mind.
So, you know, just to liven it up. But yes, you know, I agree with that. You know, so where is, you know, we got to look at what's to come. What are we missing? How, you know, that starts with us and ends with us. So we have to look at this as an individual, you know, before we can move into the collective.
Now, I'm going to use you as a springboard here, as a bouncing ball. Thank you. I've been in talks with a medium from Europe and talking about putting on a weekend with them. And there will be a couple of talks about certain aspects of mediumship and a demonstration and private sittings. Now, I always do a proposal up for visiting mediums. You know, you arrive on this date, bed and breakfast, yada, yada. doing this, what the split is. So it's all there. Everybody's comfortable. There's none of this. How much do you want, Chris? you know, you've got to approach it on a business, especially if somebody's flying in from another country. You want their full agreement and understanding before they land that they're going to be happy with everything.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you can afford them, because that happens. So anyway, I sent the proposal off and they came back to me and they went, why are you only charging like £10 for the talks? And I said, well, we're trying to gauge the UK market, and it's a very difficult market at the moment for everything. I'm sure, have you found this as well? Please say yes. Have you?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
It's a very difficult market at the moment. It's obviously money is a big thing. But they came back and they said, so why don't you work in conjunction with a hotel and put this on? Because people will spend £15 or £20 going to a neutral venue rather than going to a church. Now, I do have a little hackle when people say, oh, church, don't do church. And I'm like, that's fine. I have 40, 50 people in every Sunday who do church. So, yeah, happy days. Mm. But I thought that hit me on another level. And I just thought that really is interesting. That really is an interesting perspective there. How can, because I've always said the battle cry, hasn't it, in spiritual, we've got to get youngsters in. Well, I always think that's a little bit conceited because it's this energy of you've got to come to me. Actually, get off your backside and go out and meet them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it did occur to me with this talk, whether that goes ahead or not, we're not quite sure, but the seed has been sown now. And I thought, I can see actually what you're saying there. People will go to a theatre. They will go and see some of the, the names of mediumship and spend £20, £25 on a ticket. Yeah. But if you go from £7 to £8 on the church door, you nearly have a bloody riot.
I think it's trying to strike that balance, isn't it? And with going, as to bring in new people and young people, I think we also have to learn to meet them on their territory.
Yeah.
We have to learn to meet them where they're comfortable, not with ours. We can't have, it can't be always on our terms. Churches have got to survive. And I think there's always been this ethos with the church that, you give a couple of coppers and that's it. Well, you know what? Times have moved forward, and you well know this, that you've still got your heating, electricity, everything else to pay for. And those things don't come cheap, So the churches, I think some churches need to step up a little bit with the times here. I personally, when I'm doing most churches, but you were very generous with me, as you said, the way you do it. But I, especially the churches around here that I go and do on Sundays and, and other nights, I literally charge them the fuel price,
Yeah.
And
same.
Unfortunately now, where they, they say to me, and the service is not till next year, what's your fee? I say, well, it would be very much dependent on what the fuel price is at the time, because I can't do that now. Like before, it was pretty stable. Well, now it isn't. What used to only cost me £10 now costs me 15, 20.
Yeah. The same with the overheads. I do an exercise here every year to take the yearly water rates, the yearly electric bills, the yearly gas bills, and divide it up by the number of scheduled openings. So we leave out the odd event here and there. But when we're always open, so like the Sunday services, Wednesday evening, when I first started doing that, it was £19 something just to open up the door. It's a yearly average. It cost £19 is going to utilities. It's now £39.
Wow. So that just shows you. Maybe you need to share that with the community, with the congregation. This is what it costs to run this church.
We're fortunate here. We are well supported, but again, I don't want to fall into this trap of just being insular to the church, because when this discussion was made about hosting this event in a hotel, and that way if anybody was coming down for it, they could book into that hotel with a preferred rate and thing. And I thought, you know what, I really love what you're saying there, and I can, whether that will work or not is to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
But the energy and the premise of it, actually, that makes perfect sense. That really does.
I'm going to say something that may be a little controversial, I don't know, but I remember when I first, started at the churches, and that was SNU, and I remember there were formidable presidents at that time, and I think what happened then is they would have good mediums. That was because they vetted them.
Yeah.
They vetted the mediums. And whereas I think in recent years, it's just to get somebody in, to get the door open, to get somebody on the stage, because we hear in time again, and I'm sure you do on this show, the standard of mediumship's gone down. Now, whose fault's that?
Yeah.
Is it that the church, because they're letting these people in just to keep the door open? Or is it the good mediums who are not doing their part now, who've stepped back? We've got to try and look at that balance.
There's many, many levels to that.
Yes.
One of my threads is that the churches are creating this huge pressure on themselves because they're going to do what I call the industry standard. And please, people, I am not being disrespectful. I am not being rude. I am not being nasty. But they create this, the industry standard will be a divine service and a DEM during the week. So at the beginning of every year, that medium secretary has got 100 empty boxes they've got to fill. Mm-hmm. Well, since 2020, we saw an enormous step down of the pool of local working mediums, probably between 30 and 40% of the names that you could always rely on and come in and do a divine service and maybe a couple of DEMs, and they're not there anymore.
No.
But the pressure hasn't changed. They've still got that 100 boxes. I mean, we're doing, not blowing our trumpet, but as you can see, the church is laid out very differently tomorrow, because we're going to have a service called Talking Heads, which is not going to be a church service. It's not going to be a full-on divine service. It's going to integrate people into the service with questions and answers, talk inspirationally, just show the other side of mediumship. It's not all about, I've got your mother here. It's about having the right conversations with the right people present that will benefit from that and interact with it. So I don't need a medium for tomorrow. I have got one. I've got a wonderful Sarah Deverell. But I alleviate that pressure upon the church, and I don't stick to a rigid adherence. It's the last Saturday of the month, so we've got to do a DEM of mediumship, because all the churches and centres have created this sort of like prison, and they've got to fulfil all these obligations. Well, of course, times are changing. The committee structure, to me, of churches and centres seriously needs a review, because this structure that most churches operate to was set up in 1930. So we're almost 100 years old. When you had a good quantity of available people, not a sexist remark, the old man used to go out to work and the missus was at home. Yeah. They had a lot of time on their hands. They would have been the backbone of the committees and everything for the churches. It worked for that time. Today's world, that is no longer there. But we see churches and centres struggling and begging people to go onto the committee, or forcing them on. Or I even heard of one case where somebody was voted on after they categorically said, I do not want to go on the committee. And the next day you got phoned up and said, you're the vice president, by the way. So, we do need to look at our structures, our working. Do we have to do a demonstration? Do we have to supply evidential mediumship every time we open the door? Because you see it, don't you? MBS fair with private readings, coffee morning with private readings. It's like every time we open the door, we need an evidential medium. So we create this huge pressure. And I don't know what it's like your way, but I notice spiritualist churches tend to group. So we've got within a 7-mile radius, 1, 2, 3, 4 other churches apart from Paul. So you take it, the beginning of the year, if we're all doing the industry standard, there's 500 boxes need filling with mediums' names out of a pool of about 50. Yeah. So do you have the same medium 10 times a year, every other month? We've got to move. We are a movement, and we don't seem to be.
Yeah, I think we also have to remember.
Sorry,
that's okay. I think we also have to remember as well, we're a community.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're a community, so we need to be doing something within that community.
Yeah.
We need to keep it fresh. I hear sometimes when you go to some places, if I get the odd chance to go and visit, is, oh, I heard that medium before. I don't know. Well, yeah, I'm going. I'm not coming.
Yeah.
What's it about?
Yeah.
So I think it's hard for you churches. I really do. I don't envy that. I'm glad I'm just a lowly medium and I don't have to do all what you do.
But again, we have two options. We can survive or go under. That, and when we strip away all the frippery and all the niceties and all the fingers sticking out while I'm drinking my cup of tea, let's just get down to basics. You can survive or you can go under. I don't want to go under. I want to survive. Okay. Can you survive with what you're doing now? No. So you need to change it. But the congregation won't like it. So you need to change your congregation.
Yeah.
You need to change their mind. You need to change their thinking.
Well, you need to educate them.
Yeah. It won't work with all of them. Accept that.
Yeah.
Every time you open the door, you own a building. You open the door 4 times a week. Every time you open the door, you've got to have an evidential medium there because that's a stipulation you have put upon it. What about opening up for community? We've got Tai Chi and Pilates starting up next month here during the week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I would not be part of that.
I can just imagine you in a leotard.
No, not nice. It's like a steal for a rainbow oil slick.
But that's good because then that goes exactly what we were just talking about. That's bringing the heart of the community back.
Exactly right. And when we look at some of the organisations where they're struggling and saying, well, you've got these fantastic facilities. What have you ever considered being a wedding venue for 4 months of the year?
You see, also, this is a good part to bring this in is, we've lucidly covered quite a few subjects there, but we've got to also understand as a community, as spiritualists, that spiritualism isn't just about mediumship.
Exactly.
It's so much more. It really is. It's about communication with each other, not just with the other world. Showing that understanding, that compassion, and helping people, helping them heal in ways that is more than just let's come and heal your ache and pain. Let's heal with compassion and kindness.
Let's try and get down to the root cause of what ails you.
Exactly. And only a community can do that.
Very much so. And we have the debonair,
good friend,
the debonair and suave, Mr. Philip Dykes. Good evening, sir. He's just saying, hi there, completely agree. What's your thoughts on how the church is modernized to meet the needs of today? Well, typical medium, latching in onto the subject from afar. And this is what we are talking about, Chris. It's, we've got What's your thoughts? Sorry, this is your evening, not mine. I will rabbit on for England. You know that. So just
Oh, I'm quite happy for you to do that. Well, I
no.
think we've already been toughing it and and covering some parts of it. I think we need to incorporate a lot more than just like we've been saying about the mediumship. You know,
Mm,
there's different influences now, different things that have been incorporated into the movement or the understanding of mediumship and spiritualism together. So why aren't we bringing that into the churches? Why aren't we bringing in, mindfulness?
yeah,
Because mindfulness is a great way of self-healing.
yeah,
Because if we start to understand what ails us, what influences us, and what is our role, and we start to understand the person we are. For me, I'm a big thing with mindfulness. I love that, and it's a great way of self-reflection. And it's also to see where you can go in the future, And I think these things, I mean, I know a lot of churches do, bringing in that influence of Reiki,
yeah,
because a lot of people like that. So instead of saying, oh, that's not part of our movement, well, let's make a little bit of room for it, because there are an awful lot of people out there that know what that is and
and
actually move with that and like that. So why aren't we embracing that a little bit more?
yeah,
Why aren't we embracing a little bit more modern technology as well? Because, the spirit world doesn't stand still. We've got engineers that we've said, and, people who work with, computers, telephones, all that sort of stuff. So why aren't we bringing that into our church and experimenting? Because remember, spiritually is a science.
hmm
So why aren't we experimenting more with that?
yeah, yeah.
And that will bring in fresh ideas, fresh people, fresh eyes.
We're frightened of failure, aren't we?
But that's the only way we learn.
Yeah, but this is an energy I come across quite a lot as a working medium, going around other churches. Now I've said this, I will not get any more bookings ever again, but never mind. But you do find this fear based. Oh, they only want the messages because they're safe.
Well,
Because
I
I
think,
can,
for me, and I'm sorry, I'm really sorry, I'm going to alienate myself here a little bit. Sometimes we think about those people that have always been there, the crowd, the
yeah,
congregation that's always been there. They like it this way. This is the way it always is. And they're afraid of change. So we don't want to rock the boat.
hmm
Well, how are they ever going to experience what they don't know if we're not willing to bring that in?
yeah,
So that they can definitely say with a definitive answer, yes or no.
yeah,
We
yeah.
shouldn't be afraid of that, because they're not going to be there forever. But your church hopefully will be.
The only constant in everybody's life is change, and is how we manage that. I had it here after when we reopened after 2020 and everything. We changed the way we were doing things, and just subtle little things like the Wednesday afternoon just used to be a straightforward dem. But because of the time, I'd ask all the mediums who were working if they would do it as a divine service. So we'd have a reading and address and then the dem. And there was a small call contingency when, I don't like all this talking. Where's the messages? And I was saying, but sorry, people are coming in because they're looking for things. They may not get a message, but they may get something from, I don't like it. Well, this is the way we're going to go, and we'd love it if you join us. Open-ended statement. And some didn't. And that's sad. But, if I go to my favorite coffee shop and they change the brand of coffee and I don't like it anymore, I just stop going there and I'm going to find another coffee shop. I'm not going to sit there and protest and dig my feet in and make everybody's life a misery around me because they've just changed the brand of their coffee. I just
Exactly.
go, yeah.
One size doesn't always fit all, does it? I used to love, and you don't hear it anymore, But I always remember people like Ron Baker and all that, and they were so gifted talkers on philosophy and inspiration. And all. Where's that gone? Why can't we bring that back into our churches? Because I know there are people like me who would prefer that rather than the message of, oh, somebody's here, they love you. Thank you very much. That's nice, But where's that inspiration?
Yeah. Because in a lot of cases, I've got 2 circles on the go at the moment here. And in one of them, I've got a couple of them are coming out with me on platform to get that experience, to, understand what it's like and experience being stared at by a room full of people and blah, blah, blah. But philosophy, I was saying to them, we don't do philosophy. I said, well, why not? Now, I picked these people up after years of sitting in other development circles. And I went, why are you not learning any philosophy? And they said, because our circle leader said, you're only going to be ever doing DEMS, so you don't need to learn the philosophy. And I thought, I don't like it, but I get it.
Yes.
I get where that thinking has come from.
Well, I actually come from an era a bit when I can actually remember when mediums only ever did the messages. I remember that. And that you actually had people who did nothing but the philosophy. And my God, that used to keep me right on the edge of my seat. Wonderful. Where are these people?
Yeah. This, again, the spirit world's answer to me. We haven't changed. So it's us that has changed.
Exactly.
Exactly. The route now to a developing medium is a bit daunting, because suddenly they're out doing a service, which again, industry standard, 1 hour, 20 minutes. That medium is working, so that's 60, 80 minutes. That medium is working for 70 of those minutes. There's 5 minutes for the intro and the notices, 5 minutes for the song, and the rest all sits on the one medium's shoulders.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of damn work.
It is. And no wonder you got young mediums coming in who it scares them to death, because they've been to many places where I've gone in expecting, them to have all this set format. They literally say, good evening, here's Chris Jacob, you're on now until you're finished. 90 minutes, bang, 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 firing that out, so it's not easy. It's quite tough going, isn't it? I can tell you a little story once as well. I could always remember going to this little church. It was a sweet place, and I did like them. They were very nice. This chair lady says to me, I started to give a message, start doing the service, and then she just stopped me, and then she just said, now, you've only to give people this amount, because I want you to get round everybody. Do it this way and do it that way and do the other. So I actually stood up, all eyes on me, and just said, well, perhaps you'd like to do it then. Well, the look on her face, she nearly fell off the chair. But, I kind of said to her, why should I subscribe to something you want?
Yeah.
And we're not here for the spirit. Why don't we try doing what they want?
Whenever I come across that energy, be it from the chair or from congregation, my first response always is, oh, are you a working medium then? No. Then please don't tell me how to do my job. You are not qualified to tell me, so stop it. You're not qualified to sit there and contradict me unless I've done something really heinous, which I haven't done for quite a while now, so I must be due one. And it's as simple as that. We should be celebrating the uniqueness, celebrating how different we all are.
Yes.
Not trying to pour into the mold. So, back to Mr. Dykes. How the churches should modernise to meet the needs of today.
Well, I think you've already been explaining that, how you've been doing that with yours by, bringing in these different events, these different evenings, these different afternoons, as it were. Let's change from just divine service, because the church is much more than that.
Yeah. And look at more taking our philosophy out to be. Again, sorry, this was very recent, this discussion about holding this weekend at a hotel. And it was one of my little light bulb moments. I thought, you know what? You've really got something there. Mm-hmm. You have really got something there. I understand what you're saying. I can see the sense behind it. Whether this is the current economic climate to travel that is another matter. But yeah, people will spend £15-20 a head. You go out to a hotel, you're going to maybe just stop in the bar afterwards, have a drink. You're having a night out.
It's a social thing.
Exactly. You know, and you're going and you know, let's be honest, you're going to sit in a nice comfy chair. Mm-hmm. These chairs are great for an hour, but after an hour, it's sort of like, oh God, I can't feel my legs anymore. And you're in that sort of like professional environment, so it feels more like the experience in the event, and that is why you're paying the money.
Yeah, it's a lot more relaxed, really, isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
So it's a tough question, isn't it? Really, it is a tough question. I'm sure that a lot of churches have tried very many different things, but I think, like with a lot of today's society, if there's no reward at the beginning, then we kind of abandon it too quickly.
Yeah. Tried that once, didn't work. Oh, okay. But also, I mean, you know, getting the scope in for the churches and centres to look at their area and what is needed in their area. Where are the gaps in the market that are not being filled? Now, whether that be, you know, fortunately, we don't have too much of this down here, but I am aware you'll get areas that the church down the road will advertise a night of mediumship 2 weeks on the Friday, and then the next day the church up the road will advertise a night of mediumship 2 weeks on the Friday. There just seems, you know, this is competition between places. I know that is an energy in some areas. Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it. There's more than enough to go around, you know, and stop trying to do, even to the point of MBS fairs and things like that. When you look at the advertising for most of the MBS fairs, they are being shared, or the open day for churches, all these adverts are being shared to spiritual pages. But surely, if you're going to do an open day, like the advertising for tomorrow has gone out in the local community groups, other community pages and things like that. I don't want to preach to the converted.
No.
I want to open the doors to people, you know, and the headline of Curious About Spiritualism really has engaged a lot of people. All right, some of them have been a little bit silly in their comments, so I've had fun with them.
You'll always get that.
Yeah. But yeah, look at the market, look where you are. What do you do? You know, how can you be a part of this community? How can you support the community that you should be a part of, rather than being separate to that community?
And can I ask you a question here? And this is one that it just has me queried a little bit. You know the 7 principles, yes?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you actually demonstrate that within your church as a church committee and as a church, rather than just a medium?
Yeah. Interesting. We're not one for dogma with things. There are guidelines. There are different versions. It's our own personal understanding of these. We're aware of the principles. As we are not aligned with any body and organisation, we're not obliged to have them up or announce them, etc., etc. There is value in the principles, as there is in all other great spiritual writings. Yeah. And it's being open and eclectic to all influences.
Yeah, exactly. Well, my point here is because some people have adapted them, haven't they? Or some people have their own
Mm,
versions and they have their
yeah,
own things. But my point is, instead of expecting the medium to demonstrate that, how do we do it as a collective? How do we do it as a community, as a church community or a center?
yeah.
How do we demonstrate that to the people that walk through the door?
But then we fall a bit foul there of the eighth principle of all this is open to personal interpretation. Because some
Exactly.
people will use the principles as a stick to beat other people up with.
Yeah.
Some people will dismiss it. Some people will go, "Oh yeah, it's interesting. I can see the correlating influence there."
Hmm.
You know, the brotherhood of man. All right, we're in a world now, and no matter what we do or say, there's always going to be the detractors. There's always going to be the people that say, "Ah, but what about?" So I know there's a lot of emphasis been going on about the principles because it's too masculine. Well, they came from a generation where it was a masculine energy, you know.
Yes.
But it depends if that is going to be your sticking point to looking into the deeper meanings of those principles, it's only you denying your own exploration because you are putting your personal distaste in front of the lesson that's available. The brotherhood of man. All right. Number one, I can't love everybody, but I can choose not to hate anybody.
Exactly.
That's a pretty good thing for the brotherhood of man. That's a
That really
really
is.
good lesson. You know, let's be realistic. We've got a very real world outside the doors of our churches now. The safe world of 2019 died on
Yeah.
March the 19th. That died. It
Yeah.
went. And we have a very different world outside. We have challenges on all levels, mental welfare issues. I've never, ever seen the amounts that there is in today's world. Just two vignettes of the entire picture. What do we do as a church to support everybody coming in the door, to make them go, not make them, but give them the opportunity to go out and go, do you know what? I can deal with this.
Hmm. I think the one thing that we can actually do, not just as a church or a medium, but as as a human being, is listen.
Very much.
And we don't do it. We don't do it nearly enough. We need to listen to what truly is going on,
Yeah,
and look between the lines. But we've been socially conditioned that we don't have that time to do that.
yeah. Or, oh no, you don't want to align with that. That's, you know, ooh,
Mm,
no, that's not quite up to date. You know what? If somebody is doing a good job, if somebody is supporting a group of people, not for personal gain, not for kudos or anything else, they are supporting them because they need. We've got a brand new veteran support group started up in the area, and I'm talking with them. And somebody actually said, yeah, but these people, you know, they're veterans because they went out and killed people. Yeah, because that was their job.
mm. They didn't necessarily have a choice when you did that.
And I'm just like, so are you saying then that we should ignore these people because of that ethos? Good God, what is wrong with you?
And I think what we need to do is try and flip that around. And yes, we know that, but so do they. And they're the
Yeah,
ones that have to wrestle with that.
they're the
We
ones.
don't know what goes on inside their head,
Exactly,
you
exactly.
know?
And
And
this is,
so we've been in the fortunate position where we haven't had to do that.
yeah, yeah.
It's like a flip coin for everything, isn't it, really?
It is because everything's got two sides and everything is debatable.
Hmm.
And when I say debatable, I mean in conversations like we're having here, in conversations like we should be encouraging in our churches and centres, not isolation and divisionalism. You know, one group's at one table drinking their tea and coffee, talking about the other group at the other. Just like, really? But debate things, and you know, we can agree to disagree. And guess what?
Yeah.
Nobody dies. The world doesn't end.
I really do think, I really hear, we're skating around it and touching it, but for me, really, I think we really need to look within spiritualism at our moral compass.
Yeah.
Really look at it and challenge that. Look at the teaching of personal responsibility, but also the karmic side of it. That actually it affects our life here and now in this moment. But what are we doing to set ourselves up for that future?
Yeah.
And even within the movement itself and the spiritual practice, do we actually consider those ethical considerations, of what, and I'm talking as a medium, of what we say and how we say it, how we put it across to that person who's grieving and we don't actually know what state they're in, just a flippant way of putting it. So we really need as mediums to look at our ethics and and be really have real consideration for that, and then I know plenty of mediums, as you will, out there, that actually, when it comes down to it, these practices are for everybody else, but not for me, because I'm a medium. So how are we applying that in our daily life?
Yes, definitely. Lovely Geraldine. I love that name, Stormfield. That's a great name.
It is, isn't it?
It is. Oh gosh, that's a wonderful name. Are you a secret agent or something? Like Geraldine Stormfield, MI5. Wonderful, wonderful name. Anyway, loving this discussion. Every church should be doing this. We've lost a community. Spirit churches should be stepping in to fill that need. And I think we're going back there to saying, the way Paul Church runs may not be transferable to Huddersfield Church. I'm not picking on you, Huddersfield Church. It was just the first name that came in my head. It may not be a transferable thing, but the actual energy, the actual basis of it, you can look at and go, well, that wouldn't work here, but I like the idea. I like that. So
having been to your church, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up your backside here, but having been to your church, is what is very evident to me was the passion that you have, not only for the church, but the service you do, the service you give, and the congregation, and that you're actually with them on their wavelength, but also for allowing them to have the difference of opinion, but also not allowing it to change your stance in a way. And you found that happy, excuse the pun, medium.
A happy medium.
Yeah. You've found that balance within that. So you're not moving or shifting the goalposts, which I find quite a lot of people do nowadays, just to appease. And we shouldn't, if it's your opinion and it's your way of doing it, I'm one to say, then carry on. If you can show me something better and it works, then I'll adapt to that.
Yeah. I always said when we first started changing things down here, I always said, if I come down one day and there's nobody in the church, and the week following there's nobody in the church, I'm going to hold my hands up and say I'm wrong. What am I doing wrong?
Yes.
Try things. The education side of the church has brought in a very unique feel. And this has been commented on by several visiting demonstrators. One gentleman said, "My God, your congregation know what they're talking about." I said, "Yeah, because they're continually exposed to education. I'm not talking lessons and classes. I'm just talking about through conversation, through the philosophy, the inspired speaking, the availability of reading material. Please take a book."
Yeah.
No, you're going to be coming 20 years and have both grandparents with you.
I mean, we're hot on teaching would-be mediums or trying to help them in that way, but we don't do nearly enough to educate the congregation.
Yeah,
they just come and take it as fact. they're not familiar with actually saying to the medium, well, no, that's wrong.
Yeah. And, you know, again, this is lovely the way this conversation is coming back to the beginning there.
Yeah.
You know, where we've been spoon feeding over the last 25, 30 years, that's not my comment. That is a comment of a very well-known medium who lives outside of this country. And when he said it, I went, you know what? You are so damn right. He said, when we've been spoon feeding just the evidential mediumship, we've stopped growing, we've stopped progressing, we've stopped the advancement within our movement. Mm-hmm. And as a working medium, and as are you, you can tell. You work in some churches and there is this engagement, this understanding, you know, and the questions afterwards. And you go, well, I'm loving this because this has got an energy about it. Similarly, you get that all the way through.
Yeah.
You know, I did stand there once and say, oh, God, should we hold hands and contact the living? Well, that didn't go down at all well either. I was just like, right, I failed.
Well, mine was worse than what yours was. There was 3 at the back of this one church. I said, oh, my God, it's like the witches of Eastwick.
I know.
I was surprised they invited me back, actually.
Well, they only invited you back for the stoning.
Probably.
Anyway, Chris, sir, thank you so much. Thank you for
it was an absolute pleasure
making this time available for us, and thank you for putting up with me wittering away. But I do love these conversations because, yeah, we just go here and there, and you know what, the beauty now, you talk about the pioneers, and I'm not putting myself in that category. Number one rule with Lawrence is he does not promote himself, because I keep getting told off that I don't promote myself, but I don't. Mm-hmm. But all these recordings, all these talks go over to becoming a podcast, which people will download and listen to. But not just tomorrow, next month, or next year. We're talking years in the future. And I always like to think that some of the topics we touch on, some of the conversations we have, somebody somewhere, sometime will go, I really like that. Yeah. That's just flicked a switch for me. And that, to me, this is part of spiritualism.
It is. I mean, maybe even look at it as a yardstick. They can measure how far it's come or how far it hasn't gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, are we still talking today what Laurie was talking about back then?
Yeah. 30 years ago.
So have we progressed? Yeah.
Exactly. And we go back to,
you know, because what we do with going back to the pioneers of the old, you know, it's all somebody else's words, isn't it? We go back to the books. We go back to what was transcribed at the time. It is always somebody else's words and somebody else's point of view. So forgive me when I say we've only got their word for it. Now, we all know we give a little bit of artistic license, don't we, to what we're saying. You know, most humans do. That's our very nature. But with things like this, it's there.
Yeah.
It can't be refuted. It's there.
Yeah. And
so for me, that's advancing what we're doing already.
That was a wonderful viewpoint. For me, you know, when we touch on the greats, what are they called?
The pioneers. Yesteryear.
when we talk about the pioneer, I always emphasize with people, you know, spiritualism is an experience. Mm. You know, whenever you are in a service or a circle or a dem or whatever, you are there for that experience. You have that shared experience between you and the other people and the other world. When you describe that afterwards, that experience isn't conveyed. It isn't carried over. It's this energy deficit. I always remember I was talking here once and I said about physical mediumship and some of the things would happen. And one lady had come to a church who went, well, I don't believe that could happen. And I said, but it did. Well, I'm sorry, I just don't believe that could happen. And I said, but there was a whole generation of people who sat in darkened rooms and actually saw it, actually touched the hand of a loved one, actually heard a loved one's, they will tell you it did happen. But because we haven't got that experience, it then goes through our mind of, do I believe that? Does that make sense? Can I go along with that? But when you're confronted with it, if you have a full ectoplasmic manifestation in front of you and it's your father saying, "You're right, son," wow.
You know, I've been present at some physical circles, and what was told me, I didn't get the materialization, but I had direct voice from spirit talking to me and literally answered something I spoke out in my head.
Yeah.
Nobody heard. They
Mhm.
answered me word for word. And, you know, I'm not name dropping, but Glyn Edwards was sat next to me. I couldn't speak for an hour afterwards. He kept asking me, "What did you say? What did you do?" I couldn't speak. It took my breath away.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that I was only 19 at the time, you know,
Yeah.
but, you know, so that's gone. It seems to have disappeared, but I'm
It's not
sure it's still
gone.
there.
It's not available. I don't like saying the words gone because gone
No.
brings in a finality to things. It's just not available at this time. It's down to us. And I'm sorry,
Again.
it's down to us to teach this, to inspire. There is an absolutely beautiful lady on here who I had a great privilege, Esmeralda, of meeting when I was over in Holland. And the potential there is magnificent. And it's up to us to inspire that, not to delude people.
No.
Not, oh, you can do all this. I can see that in you. I can see that ability. And I want you to follow that energy. I want you to follow and make that energy manifest in your mediumship. You have the ability, and the only thing that will ever stop it happening is what's going on in there.
Absolutely.
Oh, I do like Geraldine.
You know, I kind of do the same thing with my teaching of my. It's just brewing. Yes, I quite agree with you.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
I do quite agree with you.
yeah.
You know, that's a lovely way of putting it.
It
You
is.
know,
It is absolutely beautiful.
I'm going to say something as well, and I think which I kind of tell my students in a way, you know, and I've always used this as my philosophy is I will take me, I will break me, but I will remake me.
Yeah. Nice.
You know, with that forward looking of becoming better. You know, because nobody else can do that unless you obviously allow them to do it. They cannot do it. It's down to you, you know, and it's the same with mediumship, with tutors. I'm a tutor, you're a tutor. I can't make you into a good or better medium.
Yeah.
I can give you the tools, but
I can
unless you're willing to do it, unless you're willing to try, and what I tell every student that comes to me is, unless you're willing to fail,
yeah.
I can't help you.
Yeah. I'd say to my student, I'll open the doors for you.
Mm-hmm.
I can't push you through it.
Exactly.
But you know, when you look at just the simple truth, I like simple things because that's where my mind is. And the simple truth is, we are emissaries to everybody who has ever lived, ever has been, ever was, and ever potential to be. We have the ability to connect and contact with these people. So nothing is impossible. But it's the way that we go about it. It's the way that we construct the bases, the foundations for those I'm going off. Communications.
Yeah.
The intent.
Do you think we've taken the sparkle out of the magic as mediums?
I think we've gone down the safe route.
Yeah. So we have taken the sparkle out of the magic, really. The
We're
magic's still there, but we've just removed the luster.
Yeah. We've gone for the safe, play safe. I told myself off in a dem last night online. It was so funny because I saw this gentleman's father and him as a young boy on a canoe. And I said, we've got a memory here of being on a canoe or a dinghy or a boat. And he very kindly shared that photo later on in the group chat in Zoom. And it was exactly as it was described. And I told myself off. I said, do you know what? I jump on my students by saying, say what you see. Stop covering your ass. You know, yes. A canoe. Oh, it's a dinghy. It's a boat. It's a sailboat. Oh, it could be an ocean liner. Could be a floating pontoon. I don't know. It's on water.
Well, because it actually doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's wrong, because then you can turn it round and just say, well, would you understand?
You go back to spirit and go, what do I do? I always give a very good example. We had a gentleman once working, and he was working with this lady, and everything was going magically. And then he was stood there like that, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he said, I've got this huge salmon in my arms. And the woman's going, why? Well, he's given me this huge salmon. And she's going, I have no idea why he would be doing that. And you could see it really stymied the flow. And I said, what are you seeing? He said, well, it's a fish. And the woman went, his name was Fish. Stop it. Stop interfering.
That's it. That is. Give what you've got. And if it's wrong, then look, where did you go wrong?
Exactly.
Where did you go wrong with it?
Yeah.
Because it can't be the spirit world. They know what they want to say.
Yeah. Exactly. Sir, thank you so much. It's been absolutely wonderful evening. Everybody who's been online, thank you. We do enjoy these times together, sharing thoughts. Some people love it, some people hate it. Hey ho. It's a big wide world. There's room enough for everyone.
Well, we just love to chat, and if you like to listen, well, that's a bonus.
Exactly. And the one, I don't tell her, but I absolutely adore this lady. But don't tell anybody, all right? But I do. She's magical.
I think I can see it in the comment here.
Yeah, no, she is. She's Anyway.
Yeah.
So we've got to say thank you, Geraldine. Thank you for your comments and being here tonight. It's been absolutely wonderful. So thank you, everybody. At the moment, I do not have anybody for next week's Lyceum, so you may be treated to an hour of Lawrence rambling, which is always good fun. But the weekend after, we will have Craig Morris with us. The weekend after that, we have Moya O'Dwyer. Now, Moya. There's something about Moya. I don't know this lady. I've not even seen her work, but there's something I go, oh, I like you. I don't know why, but I like you. And then who else we got coming up? Wendy Lyon will be doing a Lyceum in October, as will Frederick Hagland.
Oh, dear Frederick and Wendy, I know them.
Yeah. Wendy and I just met at the open day, and we didn't even introduce. Hi. And within 2 minutes, we were absolutely clutching our stomachs in hysterical laughter. It just happened. It was just one of those moments, and we were absolutely rolling about with laughter. So I'm really looking forward to remaking that acquaintance. But in the meantime, Mr. Jacobs, thank you so much for your time.
You're more than welcome.
I'm sure it's time you fed the cat that's been sleeping patiently behind you.
That's downstairs, actually.
Anything with you coming up that you might want to share?
I'm going. A lot of changes going my way at the moment, I'll be sharing them later on. So I'm just starting slowly and changing, and a lot of things are just materializing and coming up, and now I'm kind of seeing the direction that I'm going in. And I do a lovely show on Spirit TV on the Monday morning at 10:30 with the lovely Karen Wood. who you know. And so I look forward to that as well.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
So, and I've got lots of teaching going on myself.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. Teaching. You know what? There's so many. We just need to find the right keys for the right locks in our teaching.
Yes.
There is not one fit all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, so you've got to be very adaptive.
Yeah.
There was nice.
A wonderful evening, Chris. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. It's been absolutely wonderful being in your company. We do have our Talking Head session tomorrow. That is available to watch online if you want something a little bit different from a regular divine service. So, yeah, please join us. That's 11 a.m. BST, 12 noon CET, and 6 a.m. CET. Stuff we have to learn now. But in the meantime, Chris, it's been a great pleasure talking to you. Absolutely loved it. I've loved the way the conversation flowed. And I've loved the interaction from everybody online too. So thank you all. Have a wonderful, warm and pleasant evening. And we shall see each other again sometime.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.